Hi, and welcome to week 3 in review. So, we had several participation tasks this week, and I am so thrilled that I had the opportunity to read what you shared. So, I just want to provide a summary of what people shared. So, participation task, the first one that I reviewed was your feedback on puberty. What is puberty? And people shared that they said that when they looked at puberty and why puberty was such a hard time for teens and the comparisons that teens were making, and there were comparisons that teens were making to social media, to TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, music, peers, TV, websites, celebrity culture. People compared their appearances, their differences, their body, their beauty standards, the ideals of perfection or how they should be perfect, the ideal bodies. There were social evaluations, and that those happened in the context of standards where people used filters or Photoshop or editing software. So it was an unfair playing field. Um, Someone noted that, one of the readings points out the girls focus on appearance and boys focus on abilities. In regards to comparisons, so this was people had very insightful comments, and I wonder, thinking about this, what can we do when we work with teenagers? I don't have an answer for that. The second question. So, and this was about your personal experience. People shared that it was an emotional time. It was a time of self-doubt, embarrassment, that the people we were around, academics sometimes helped us, social connections helped us navigate the emotional challenges of puberty, journaling, making videos, and sharing with each other. And some people talked about shutting down, right? And it was just a very hard time. And then the other question was about information that you had about puberty, about sexual development, and any misinformation, how that could have been shared differently, etc. People said they wished that they had had more accurate information about clothing, which I thought was so fascinating because clothing designers make one model of clothing, right? It's like one cut, and either your body type fits it or it doesn't. And that is so hard for teens, right? Because they want to wear whatever fashion they see in like whatever space. And if it doesn't look good on you, then you can be devastated, right? Um, Full disclosure, I remember shopping for a prom dress. It was traumatic. Um, okay, that everyone's timetable is different, that it is a process, and that you recognize now that it is a process, but then it wasn't so easy recognizing that it was a process. People wanted things to happen faster. Some people felt very informed. Other people did not feel informed about what was happening to their bodies, the changes that were occurring. And then there were some myths that took place. So, again, my question is how can we use our perspectives, our experiences to inform how we're going to work with teens? So the second participation task was reviewing the three videos, and they were three very different videos. And the third one in related to teens was looking at a girls' soccer game, which I mean, I thought they were pretty good players. And some of the things that people noticed is there was an increase in dexterity, increase in coordination, the pace of the game, the children's actions, and the teens' actions, the pace increased. They had more control, more intentionality, more organized sporting activities, which involves relationships with peers, right? It's there's a coordination among the teens and their who they're playing with, the types of muscle movements they were engaged in. They were very refined muscle movements. They weren't just moving their bodies, they were moving them in very specific ways. They had confidence. The teens had confidence. Clearly, there was accuracy, proficiency, precision, efficiency. They were specialized movements. The teens had a greater awareness of their body. The younger children, it was more of an explorative type of use of their body. The strength, the complexity, the strategic use of their body, and their muscle tone increased with age. Um, then, for the next participation task, we looked at high school start times. Melina had a very thoughtful response that is a model exemplar if people are looking how to structure responses in the future. Um, I think everyone had responses that were supported by information from the module, very thoughtful feedback. We had two people who voted to keep the start time at 8 o'clock, two people for 8:30, two people for 8:30 to 9 or 8:30 or after, two people for either 8:45 or 8:45 to 9, and two people for 9. So we were like really split. We were really divided. However, in our conversations, some people said like teens just need to wake up early. Those pretty much were my 8 o'clock people, full disclosure. Other people who moved to shift the start time to later realized and used the readings and materials to articulate that teens, according to the research, according to the materials shared, have different needs because their circadian rhythms changed. Their sleep-wake cycle changes. We have no idea why. It just happens. Um, Changing the start times would increase their health because they would get more sleep. They would sleep better. And it would change their behavior because they wouldn't be so tired. They would have increased academic focus. Their mood would level out. It would increase their mental health and well-being. People talked about it would be an increase in safety, fewer car accidents. It could support teens' executive functioning, their attendance at school. Someone said their brains are not fully awake. I have to say, I loved that. Their brains are not fully awake early in the morning. I feel like my brain is not fully awake most mornings. So, I agree. It would improve their grades, decrease risk-taking behaviors, and improve decision making. So people made lots of thoughtful arguments for changing school start time. I just found it fascinating how we were like so split about what time to start. Although we were pretty much between 8 and 9. So then the creating a case study article. Um, Everyone talked about how the purpose of the article was really to focus on what we are going to do in a classroom, being um, observers, that we will use this feedback to inform our practice, our teaching, and our work with teens. You did have some very thoughtful questions. People asked, how? How do we do this? How do we suspend our judgment? How do we know what to focus on when we're in the classroom? And how do we move from a participant observer, excuse me, how do we move from being observing participants to a participant observer in the classroom? Which I thought were very thoughtful questions. A couple of things I just want to point out. What to focus on. You will have your focus student, and oftentimes you will focus on them. But clearly, there'll be other times when you want to focus on the teacher or you want to focus on the content, the lesson. So when you're observing, you'll be focusing on different things. How do we separate our judgments? Um, so this is a key piece. We can't, right? We're humans. And the Margaret Mead quote like capitalizes on that. We're humans. We have judgments. We walk down the street. Ooh, I like that. Ooh, she's wearing a cute outfit. Ooh, look at his hair, right? We are naturally judgmental people, right? It's hard to separate ourselves from that. So what do? We take notes. We take a lot of detailed notes. We will go over this as we get closer to starting our observations. We will take notes, and then what we will do is we will make a column for objective observation. And you saw she gave examples of observations that were objective and non-judgmental, which is what we want. And then we will have another column that says questions, judgments, assumptions, etc. And when you're observing, you write down as much detail, as much as you possibly can in the objective section. And then if you see something you have questions about or judgments you notice in yourself, you write that in that part of in that side of the chart too, in that column. And that's fine also. And then typically as soon as possible after you finish the observation, um, so sorry, you will go and type this up so that you have your observation, it's fresh. And as you're typing it up, as you're formulating it into a formal paper, which you'll create, and we'll talk about that. We're just starting this process. I will guide you through it. Um, you're going to look for, oh, yeah, that feels judgmental. Okay. And so then you try to think about, okay, what was it that I saw? How can I reframe it so it's not judgmental? How can I focus on what I saw, heard, counted, taste, touch, and felt? And when we talk about objective observations and non-judgmental observations, it's what do we see, hear, count, taste, touch, feel? And that makes an observation objective and non-judgmental. But we will dive into that more, and we will dive into that in week 4 and 5 and through the rest of the semester. So thank you for your thoughtful. Oh, and so how do we transition from being an observing participant to a participant observer? That is something you will engage with your cooperating teacher. The first few weeks, you're going to be getting your feet wet. You're going to be figuring out what's happening. And you're only in the field for 36 hours, although clearly some people work in their programs. So, in the beginning, if you're new to your cooperating teacher, if you're new to the school, new to the program, you're just going to be observing. You're going to be, what's the flow? Mapping out the classroom. How does the day go? What does the teacher do at the start of the class? What happens? What happens at the end of the class? Who are the who are the students in the class, right? And then how does that compare to the next group that comes in, right? If you're there for more than one period. And then deciding on who you want to be your focus student, and we will talk about that. And then once you have that down, um, then you'll start your observations of your student. We'll get to that. Don't worry, not in this video, but we will get to that. Then you can, after you feel like you have some time under your belt, you can go to your cooperating teacher and say, how can I support you? How can I help you? What would you like me to do? They might want you to make copies. They might want you to put up a bulletin board. They might want you to score a quiz. And that's what they might want you to work one-on-one with the student, or with two or three students. And that's all good, right? That's what the experience is. Will you be teaching a lesson? I'm sorry, you won't. We're only in the field for 36 hours this semester, but you will have the opportunity to observe, learn, and participate in the classroom in lots of different ways. So I look forward to your feedback from week 4, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Be well.